It began with a promise of liberation. After decades under Japanese rule, Koreans were told a new future was coming. Freedom, independence, a fresh start. But in the North, that promise quickly turned into something else entirely. Instead of building a normal state, one family built a system so powerful, so closed, and so carefully controlled that it would outlive wars, famine, global collapse, and even the death of its own founders. So how did the Kim dynasty take control of an entire country and never let go? To understand that, you have to go back to the moment Korea was split in two. At the end of World War II, the peninsula was divided between Soviet forces in the north and American forces in the south. That line was supposed to be temporary. It never was. In the Soviet-backed north, a young guerrilla fighter named Kim Il-sung was chosen to lead. He was not selected because the people demanded him. He was selected because he was useful. He had fought against Japanese occupation. He was loyal to Moscow. He could be presented as a heroic revolutionary. But Kim Il-sung did something critical almost immediately. He did not act like a temporary administrator. He acted like the future owner of the state. First, he built legitimacy through myth. His anti-Japanese record was amplified into legend. His speeches framed him not just as a leader, but as the embodiment of the nation's struggle. In a country emerging from occupation, war, and confusion, that story mattered. It gave people a simple narrative. The nation had suffered, and now one man would save it. Then came the institutions. Kim did not rely only on charisma. He moved to control the army, the party, and the police all at once. Land reform helped him gain support among poor farmers. Nationalization gave the state control over industry. Political rivals were pushed aside, absorbed, or eliminated. And because the early North Korean state was built in a Soviet style, power flowed through party loyalty, surveillance, and ideological discipline. That meant opposition did not just lose elections, it disappeared. Then the Korean War changed everything. When war broke out in 1950, Kim Il-sung tried to unify the peninsula by force. The result was catastrophic. Millions died, cities were destroyed, and the war ended almost where it began. On paper, that could have ruined him. In many countries, a leader who brings such destruction loses power. Kim did the opposite. He used the war to harden the system. After the fighting stopped, North Korea became a fortress state. The regime claimed the country was under permanent threat from foreign enemies, especially the United States and South Korea. That fear became political fuel. It justified military expansion, internal crackdowns, and total social mobilization. If the nation was always in danger, then absolute obedience could be sold as survival. This is where the dynasty truly began to take shape. Kim Il-sung understood that controlling the present was not enough. He had to control the future. So he started building a political culture where loyalty was not just to the party or the state, but to him personally. Statues, songs, slogans, school lessons, workplace rituals, and daily life all revolved around his image. He was no longer just a president. He became a father figure, a revolutionary genius, almost a sacred figure. That transformation mattered because it changed power from something political into something emotional. And once that happened, succession became possible. Most communist states were not designed to be hereditary monarchies. Power was supposed to pass through party structures, but Kim Il-sung slowly bent the system around his family. His son Kim Jong-il was elevated over years, not overnight. He was placed into key propaganda and organizational roles. His image was built carefully. By the time the public fully understood what was happening, the succession had already been normalized inside the elite. This was one of the most important moves in modern political history. North Korea took the structure of a socialist state and fused it with a bloodline monarchy. But a dynasty cannot survive on mythology alone. It needs fear. That is where the security system became essential. North Korea developed an enormous network of surveillance, informants, and punishment. Entire families could be punished for one person's disloyalty. Class background mattered. Songbun, the regime's loyalty classification system, helped sort citizens into trusted, wavering, or hostile categories. Your opportunities, your location, your food access, even your future could depend on how politically reliable your family was seen to be. This made resistance incredibly difficult. People were not just afraid for themselves, they were afraid for their children, parents, and relatives. And then came the propaganda machine, one of the most relentless in the world. North Koreans were not simply told to obey, they were taught to see the Kim family as the source of every good thing in their lives. The dynasty became inseparable from the nation itself. Kim Il-sung liberated the country. Kim Jong-il protected it. Kim Jong-un modernized and defended it. The message was always the same. Without the Kims, there is no North Korea. That is why even disaster did not break the system. In the 1990s, after the Soviet Union collapsed, North Korea lost crucial support. The economy fell apart. Famine killed huge numbers of people. In many states, that level of failure would bring revolution. But the regime survived because control in North Korea was never based only on performance. It was based on isolation, fear, ideology, and the destruction of alternatives. People could suffer terribly and still have no organized way to challenge power. By the time Kim Jong-un took over after Kim Jong-il's death, the dynasty had already proven something extraordinary. It could reproduce itself. A third-generation ruler inherited not just a government, but a fully engineered reality. He then strengthened it in his own way, removing rivals, accelerating weapons development, and presenting himself as both modern and ruthless. The style changed, the system did not. And that reveals the deeper truth. The Kim dynasty did not take control simply because it had weapons or propaganda. It took control because it mastered something even more powerful: dependency. It made the state depend on the family, the elite depend on the family, and made ordinary people believe their safety, their identity, and their survival depended on the family. It turned politics into bloodline, fear into loyalty, and isolation into permanence. That is why North Korea is so hard to understand from the outside. It is not just a dictatorship. It is a dynasty built inside a sealed state, where history is rewritten, power is inherited, and control reaches into every part of life. So when people ask how the Kim dynasty took control, the answer is bigger than one coup, one war, or one leader. They built a system where myth replaced truth, loyalty replaced freedom, and one family became the nation itself. And once a country is taught that its ruler is not just in charge, but essential, removing that ruler becomes almost unthinkable. That was the real victory of the Kim dynasty, not just taking power, making power feel permanent.